really, really, really wanted to be here. So he wrote something and asked me to read it to everybody. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And I hope I might get choked up once or twice, but I'll get over it, don't worry.
We'll be choked up with you, Scott, don't worry about
it. Thanks. Okay. Ken said, Louis Paul was my cousin. Our mothers were sisters. We both lived in San Angelo when I was born in 1953. Louis was almost 6 years old. His father had passed away a short time before. My Aunt Ella Mae was my mother's nurse in the living room the night I was born. Although I don't remember those early days of our relationship, I was told Louis spent a lot of time with me and we became more like brothers than cousins. I called him my Bubba. Okay, I don't know why that got me. When Dad received his transfer orders to an Air Force base in England, my mother said I cried all the way to the airport screaming, I want my Bubba. Bubba was more than my cousin. He was my best friend, my brother, and my hero. I feel that way too, by the way.
Hear, hear.
Me too.
We never lived in the same town again after my family returned to the States, but our relationship continued to grow stronger. My family vacation destinations were almost always in San Angelo, so I got to see Bubba at least once a year. It seemed like we had only spent a few weeks apart and caught right up to where we had left off. I looked up to him for a lot of reasons. Louis was a real cowboy, a real war hero, a dedicated family man, a hard worker, generous with his time, and he loved Jesus. Louis was the toughest man I ever knew. Not a person you would want to provoke, but he was not an instigator. He was generous and caring to his friends and relatives, very polite and respectable of his elders. He rarely spoke to people he didn't like. When he returned from his tour in Vietnam, he went to work on the Collins Ranch, found Lois, and married her. Lois was and is such a dear, sweet person, and I loved her from the very start. Louis picked her, so she must be perfect.
No one's laughing.
I agree. I was so excited when he invited me to spend some time with them on the ranch. I was 15 at the time and dreamed of the cowboy life. I realized that the war had changed him. Not how he treated me, but he was different. I stopped calling him Bubba. It just didn't seem to fit the way it used to. I called him Louis from then on. Louis loved life and loved to laugh. He always enjoyed watching people do stupid, silly things. He really liked the opportunities to challenge his nephews and my two sons to see how they would react.
Every day.
Stephen called these opportunities concentration camp. However, you guys have to admit you had fun and freedom with Louis. Thanks to Lois, you were fed very well.
Yes.
The task one day that summer on the Collins Ranch was to pull the rods on the windmills to re-leather them. That meant hauling 40 pounds of pulleys and chains 20 feet up to the top. Of course, Louis insisted that I was the man for the job. Louis knew that every windmill was home to a wasp nest the size of a dinner plate. I found out about that when I reached the top. He would call out from the safety below, "Be careful to not let them chains bang against the metal." This turned out to be virtually impossible. Right? So the chains would bang and the wasp would start flying around my head. My heart was in my throat. Louis knew it and would call out words of comfort. Be still until they land back on their nest. I was even more determined to finish the job, just to show him how tough I am. Once he realized I was somewhat comfortable, the fun for him began. He started throwing rocks, hitting the blades on the windmill, which stirred the nest. I was yelling at the top of my lungs, "Louis, quit it!" He was laughing so hard he couldn't throw rocks anymore. I didn't speak to him for hours after I came down. Looking back, he really wasn't being mean, but teaching me to keep my head while faced with danger. Although he did have great fun giving the lesson. Among many things, he taught me to shoot a gun, both fast and accurate, how to ride a horse through rough country, what ranch management really entailed, how to talk to pretty girls, and never stop believing in Jesus no matter what is going on in your life. We will all miss him. But we'll have our memories of what a unique and special person he was, and how fortunate we are for the privilege of knowing him. Love You, Bubba, written by Kenneth McCauley, June 22nd, 2019. So that's what Ken wrote. And then my mom, Simmy, really wish she could be here too, but she's in an assisted living in San Marcos and taking care of my stepdad, Wayne, who's physically not doing well. I mean, he's okay, but can't travel. And my mom just had a real little story, one little bitty memory. She said, when Louis was about 6 or 7, he loved to go to the Weistinger's farm. And that family went to the same church, and he loved to play there and help with chores. So maybe that's where he first started his ranching career. And then my best memories of Louis are mainly just hanging out with him and listening to his stories and his take on life. And I also wanted to tell y'all I've got some footage from one of our Hartman reunions from, I believe, 1993, where I was, video cameras were the thing then, and so I sat him down in the motel room, and I don't remember any details because I probably hadn't seen it since 1993, but I just more or less interviewed him and asked him to tell stories about the war and ranching. And so my plan is to get that digitized. It's on a Super 8, but I don't even have a camera that can play it, but I know a place that can digitize it, and I'm going to maybe put it on a bunch of thumb drives and, if it's appropriate, we'll see. And, it may have to be edited. But anyway, I'd like to get that to everybody if I can. So that's all I had. And Louis, we love you, man.
Love you. Thank you, Scott.